Hello to everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on this webinar session. We'll plead with you that we'll have a few more people that are joining, so please hold on a bit for us. We'll start shortly. We will not waste much time at all. We just want a few more people to join, and then we can start. Thank you very much.
Hi, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. It's 8 minutes past the hour. My sincere apologies for coming in slightly late. Just when I thought I was ready and really excited to be on board, we had a power blackout and somehow my internet took time to connect. So my sincere apologies for that, but good to have you. Thank you for giving us the 8 minutes of your time. Just to introduce ourselves, my name is Anne Murungi. I'm the commercial director at Indigohomes. And I can see Richard right there. Hi, Richard. We can see you. He's the one doing our technical. Richard, I don't know. Hi, how are you? Yeah. Thanks. Great. I think we are all set, Richard, to start. And we have Daniel. Daniel is our senior sales exec. He heads the sales team when it comes to talking to you and letting you know about our product and how far we've been in terms of construction and helping you through a seamless sales process. Daniel, it's good to have you. So I think with that, we are very quickly going to give you an overview of Indigohomes. Richard, if you can hear me, please put up the presentation so that we can take you through just where we are at as Indigohomes, what we've been able to achieve, what we've been able to do. And then we can quickly go on to our topic of the day, which is just understanding the process of buying property, registering the documentation, the do's and don'ts. I know quite a number of us have had experience in buying properties in Ghana, and some very good seamless processes. Others have had challenges. I remember during our last webinar, a couple of you when we were talking of whether to buy or build property in Ghana, a number of you came up to say that they've tried to build and they had challenges when it came to land registration, when it came to the paperwork, not really understanding who the landowner is for some. And that's why we felt that it was good for us to have a very credible panel with us to just take us through what do we need to look out for when buying land, what are the do's and don'ts. And of course, we have one who will give us the experience of having invested in property from diaspora. So Richard, if you could could go ahead with the presentation, please. Great. So that just gave us an overview of where we are with the construction. The video was taken in May, and it really shows us the beautiful property community that Oyarifa Park is coming up to be. So if you could go back to the presentation, Richard, we can just give our audience a quick overview of where we are at today, and I'll ask Daniel to just take us through.
All right, thank you very much, man. A very good afternoon from Ghana to everyone and wherever you are hearing my voice. I'm happy to announce that we've made significant progress since the last time we had a webinar. At the moment, we are about 97% complete throughout the entire development. Of key to us is the clubhouse and the pool area, which are the ones that are nearing completion. As I speak to you, the light fixtures have been fixed in the clubhouse. Yesterday, they tested them out. Just left with a few things, a few cleanups to do within the clubhouse. So the clubhouse will actually be ready soon. I'm pretty sure by next month, the clubhouse should be ready. An update on the pool, they have started the tiling. So once they do the tiling, they will put water in it to flush out the systems, just to make sure that the pool begins to run smoothly. So I think we are almost there. For the sports court, which is multi-purpose, already we have people using it already, which means that sports, the tennis, the basketball, and 5-a-side pitches are very much ready. We have started works on the kids' playground as well. What we promised was putting up a soft landing for kids so that when they're playing, they're fine. So they've started the process. They excavated already, put some concrete. So they're just about that, about 60% done with that. Apart from that, we should have the clubhouse and the pool area from end of next month. It should be in very good shape. Thank you very much. I'll hand over to Priscilla to take us through.
Hello, everyone. My name is Priscilla, and I am delighted to walk you through our 3-bedroom semi-detached townhome at Oyarifa Park. When you enter Oyarifa Park, you'll find driveways, entry-line walkways. Each home comes with a double car parking space, a dedicated garbage bin storage. We have also provided an extra parking for our visitors and those special occasions. As you approach the house, you'll be invited to a relaxing front porch and a view of our private balcony with breathtaking mountain views. Moving indoors, our homes boast of UPVC double-glazed glass doors and windows, ensuring protection, energy efficiency, and noise reduction. We have a guest washroom and a coachroom that keeps belongings organized in the living area. Our unit comes fitted with DC inverter air conditioners, ensuring maximum savings on your energy consumption. We have a gourmet kitchen featuring engineered countertop, a stainless steel deep sink basin, modern appliances such as cooker, heat extractor, microwave, and a refrigerator. We have also provided an extra room that can be converted into a kitchen or a staff quarter. Safety is paramount, so we have installed smoke detectors in all our units. Now, when you move upstairs, you'll find 3 bedrooms, including a master bedroom suite, which comes fitted with dual vanities and a spacious closet, providing ample storage for your belongings. Now, schedule a viewing with me today, and you will enjoy where you live. Thank you for your attention.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Priscilla. That was great, short, crisp, very clear on what we have on offer. We have sold out the 2 beds and the 4 beds. We have 3 beds remaining, just 7 units, 6 today. We had 7 yesterday. Midday today, we sold 1 more, so we have 6 units remaining. And each unit is going for $230,000. We have a payment plan, so should you want to inquire more, discuss more about our beautiful properties, please talk to us, site charters, and we will take you through our offering. So that's it from us. We now go to the interesting bit, the juicy part, the topic of discussion for today, which is the in terms of buying and property, how do we register? What documentation do we need? And with this, I'll ask the panels to switch on their video so that I can quickly introduce them or ask them to introduce themselves, and then we can start the topic for the day. Benedicta, I know I saw you online together with Nana Kojo Obiri. And we have also Nana from Lands Commission. He had logged in earlier. I think he has an issue. I can't see him on the panelist. He had an issue with his internet, but we're expecting him back shortly so that also he can join in on the session. So great. I'm going to ask our panelists to introduce themselves, starting with Benedicta, then we go to Nana, and then we can start with a great conversation.
Good afternoon to you all. My name is Benedicta Mau Shifiano. I'm a legal practitioner. I'm an associate at Fugar Company, and Fugar Company is an old law firm that has been in existence since 1977. We practice in areas such as immovable property, civil, criminal, immigration. Just think of it. Fugar Company will provide you those services. So that's just about it. That's all about me.
Great. Thank you, Benedicta. Thank you for being here. We appreciate you, and we look forward to an engaging conversation with you. And over to you, Nana.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nana Obrioboas, and said, but Benedicta had mentioned that they provide any service you can think of, but I don't, unfortunately. I do live in Las Vegas, Nevada, and I work with U.S. Department of Energy as Information System Security Officer. And I'm into real estate a little bit, so that brings me on board to share my ideas and my experience with Indigohomes. I think it's the #1 builder in Ghana so far. However, we're sailing through. So that's all I have for now.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much for that, Nana. I really appreciate for being a great ambassador. I'm glad you had a seamless experience with us. And thanks for really vouching for our services. So I'll go straight to Benedicta, and I'll just ask you to give us just an overview of the framework governing property purchase in Kenya. What's the general legal framework on the same?
So for property acquisition or ownership in Ghana, the supreme law, which is the 1992 Constitution of the Republic of Ghana, governs ownership and property acquisition. per the 1992 Constitution, all the lands are vested in the president on behalf of the citizens. Now, we also have the Land Act, which is 2020 Act 1036, Act 1036. So property acquisition can also be acquired through inheritance. So we have PNDC Law 111 in there as well. It could be a subject matter in terms of matrimonial issues. So that also governs property acquisition as well. So the legal framework is quite broad, depending on how or where you are acquiring the property.
Okay, great. Now, when you say about the legal framework, just give us an example. Like if I'm getting property in Accra today, what am I looking at? All these aspects, or is it unified to one? What am I looking at? Let's give ourselves Accra as an example.
Very well. We are acquiring a property from Accra. We have to know our vendor very well. Whom is selling the property to us? Are we buying it from an institution? Are we buying it from an individual? Are we buying it from a family? Are we buying it from a stool? One peculiar thing about acquiring properties in Accra is that Ghans normally you acquire family lands from them. They are not really stool lands, they are family lands. So if I'm acquiring a property in Accra and it's a family land, I have to make sure that whoever is transferring ownership to me is the lawful representative of that family. And that lawful representative, as in head of family, has the consent of the elders of the family.
Okay.
And as a Ghanaian, they can't give me freehold. I'll be subject to 99 years. It cannot go beyond 99 years, which may be subject to renewal. So upon expiration of the 99 years, the land reverts to the original owners, and then they can renew same for me. So when you're purchasing, if it is an individual that you're purchasing a property from, you have to be sure if the person is a Ghanaian. It's very, very key, because if the person is not a Ghanaian and a foreigner, he can just give me 50 years, even though I'm a Ghanaian, because per the Constitution and per the Land Act, Section 10, a foreigner can acquire just 50-year interest. So if it's a foreigner, then it means I'm going to get 50 years from that foreigner. The foreigner can give me more than 50 years. If I'm acquiring it from an estate, I have to make sure the individual I'm acquiring the land from, it's a beneficiary of that estate. I can't just acquire it. If it is it's a subject matter of a will, I have to make sure that that property has been devised to the person in the will. If it is a subject matter of a judgment, I have to make sure that I have to conduct my due diligence to ensure that judgment indeed was given in favor of that individual, and per that judgment, that individual can transfer the land to me. So the legal framework is quite broad, and it comes from diverse ways: the Constitution, the Land Act, even marriage. If a wife is selling the property to you, you have to make sure that if it's a subject matter of divorce, you have to make sure that, yes, indeed, she got the property at the end of the divorce action. So she has that power or that authority to transfer same to you. And even per the Land Act now, if the property is a subject matter of was acquired in the subsistence of a marriage, you need the consent of the other spouse before you can transfer it. So the legal framework.
Quite a lot for you to look at when you're buying property. And I imagine this is Accra, this is a city. Most of these areas are well sectioned, probably land registered, but you hear there is a lot someone has to look out for. You have not only to know whether it's a stool or a family, but you have to go further to really go within the family and understand the dynamics of that family. Exactly. If the person speaking to you is actually the lawful representative of the family. And I know during Q&A, we'll have quite a number of questions around that, because sometimes you buy and you pay, and actually you even start to develop, only that somewhere in between you hear someone has then come up to claim the land. And I think that's one of the things I know we are very rigorous about as a developer, because we buy a big chunk of land and you find that sometimes we have more than 3, 4 owners who then could be having these representatives in the family, and you have to bring all this together, make sure that you're talking to the right people, make sure that you've gotten all the consent for all these pieces of land before you put it together, get a title for it, and develop.
Yes.
Which is a very tedious process, and I know quite a number of, some developers might not go through the full let's say process to just make sure that that land is clean and everything has been done. And that's why you find that sometimes through the development, either a land litigation matter arises or the development is stopped because there's a case that is ongoing in court. I think that that's something we will divert more as we go on, Benedicta. I'll move to Nana, who has bought property from developers as well as bought land directly. Probably, Nana, you can share with us a bit of your experience. Would want to hear what your experience has been so far. Nana, if you're there. Great.
Yeah, hi everyone. Once again, I'm Nana Obriobor. So what Anne is was talking about challenges with purchasing in Ghana, it is interesting because there's no clear cut, even though the laws are there, the legal teams are there, but most people don't get consultation when they're trying to buy property. They try to go with people they know or think they can do it all by themselves, but it can be very complicated. It's a little bit convoluted. So I would recommend doing anything property purchase in Ghana with a legal person or a legal team that has your best interest. It might be a little costly, but it really saves you a lot of pain and suffering and headache. Because a couple of years ago, I think 2022, it was over $100,000 that I had invested into a property at like a piece of land. I ended up finding out, like they were talking about the families. Not everybody was on the same page. So the person who had signatory to the land wasn't the person I was dealing with. But they were able to show all the paper trail because they belong to the family. And Anne had mentioned that it would be ideal if you can bring them all together and sit with them, then you really know what is happening. In a nutshell, what I would recommend is probably have a legal team, since they know the in and outs of all this. And there's a favorite quote in the Bible I love very much. It says, "For lack of knowledge, people perish." Mm-hmm. And if you don't have it, somebody out there has it. So it's your best interest to always try to ask or delegate to a legal team who will do their best for your interest. And those are some of the challenges. So yeah, I've gone through land acquisition, through real estate, and actually buying property in Ghana, coming to Ghana, staying there for like almost 6 months with my job on the line and trying to do a remodel. I did a whole 40-foot container with granite kitchen cabinets and everything. Stayed in Ghana trying to remodel myself. Yeah, and these artisans are not very honest and straightforward. So if you have a company like Indigohomes, that has your interest, it really helps because they deal with all the headache for you. I was down there. Masons will tell you today that, hey, I'm sorry, my daughter is sick or my child is sick, and what can you do? You have to try and accommodate that because that's their family that's not doing well. Then you find out he's on another site. Somebody might call you, oh, he's working over here. You go there, you find he's like, oh, I'm sorry, it was an emergency. I just got here. And it keeps going on back and forth. The land guards, like it's not easy. It wasn't easy. Finally, I was able to get about 80% done before I left the country. But I swore to myself, I'm never going to take that challenge again. And it's unfortunate that when Indigohomes has started in Ghana, I had one to purchase, but I wasn't available myself. So I recommended, I asked a friend to go check it out for me. And that friend has only been to Europe. He's only been to the US. He hasn't seen Europe, how houses are. So from his point of view, he was like, the rooms are a little bit smaller, not that big like when I visited in the US, what I saw. But then when I was coming to Ghana, I think 2019 or so, I was like, I want to check it out myself. So I came, I think 21, yeah. I came, made an arrangement to meet up with Dan, and met Ann and the whole team. And that's when I realized I wish I bought earlier without even considering what my friends' recommendations were. So what I'm trying to say is Indigohomes, after getting in touch with them, realized, yeah, finished everything. It's just like what we have in the US. And since parent company is based in the US, it kind of helps. So there's not much you'll be missing out, especially if you have a foreign experience and you're trying to get that in Ghana. And artisans in Ghana generally are a little behind in terms of finishes. So Indigohomes bridges the gap for the diasporans and locals who are trying to get a taste of what the West has. And they're doing a great job with their closets. And, they haven't started walk-in closets yet, but what they have is more than enough for anybody moving in that community. There's plenty of storage spaces. They do take advantage of using their space very well, because if you look at the size or the square footage of each unit and the amount of room that you get in terms of storage, it's more than enough, way more than enough. Okay. And I think they're on their second project in Ghana, and I'll recommend it for anybody who is interested. If you have any questions or you need some clarity on something, you could take my number from or you could message me while the meeting is going, and I'll try to respond to you as well. But other than that, if you want to love where you live, it's Indigohomes. And also recommend always using a legal team that has your best interest at heart.
Okay, great. Thank you. I just had to give you time to just really break it down for us, because I think your experiences just encompass what we are discussing. So, one thing I've picked from that is, one, despite Nana being a Ghanaian and understanding probably who owns land, has told the family, he lost almost $100,000 thereabout. Can you recover that money, Benedicta, especially where you have paid to a family and you've paid to the person who is not the true representation of the whole family? You said that we need to know the one person who represents the whole family. Now you pay to somebody who is part of the family, yes, but is not the representation of the whole family. Can you ever recover that money?
Yes, you can recover the money. You sue in court for recovery of the money. And the issue about the family is that, as Nana said, is very convoluted, because it's difficult to determine who the right head of family is at that material time. Because sometimes at the time you are purchasing the land, there's already a litigation determining who the head of family is. So that area is very convoluted. And I do recall we had a client from the US who was trying to acquire one of these estate properties and engaged our services. When we got in touch with the estate developers, one thing we asked them was, how many years do you have left on the land? They said, oh, we are giving him 70 years. I said, okay, very well. But have you checked if the prospective purchaser is a Ghanaian or not? And they said, oh, because we don't want to be discriminatory, we are giving everybody 70 years. And I said, no, that is dangerous. My client is not a Ghanaian. He is an American citizen. But for the mere fact that they saw him, because he's light-skinned and black-skinned, so it is automatically he's Ghanaian, so he's entitled to the 70 years. We did further search and realized that the estate developers can't even give our client the 70 years. The number of years they have left is just 55 years. So then how do you give him 70 years? So as Nana said, acquiring a property in Ghana, you really need legal advice. Else you may end up purchasing litigation, trust me.
Whoa. And how long do these cases take? Because then when you realize that there's an issue and you're just about to lose your property or to lose your land, then how long does this litigation process take for you to then get justice and really secure your money and secure your property?
It depends. If there's a written agreement covering the transaction, then it aids the court. And it's a little bit expeditious than when it is an oral grant. There is nothing governing it, and it's just a matter of he said this, he said that. That makes it difficult for the court. And in terms of the written agreement, it should spell out everything as much as possible. Don't let the court do your work for you by interpreting some clauses in there for you. It should spell out everything, even if it is dispute resolution. Should that be in the event of any dispute, how are we going to resolve it? I think you can have clauses around it, though you can't completely oust the jurisdiction of the court, but you can try amicable resolution in the initial stage, and then if you fail, then you go to the court. When it comes to land, it could take quite some time. It could.
Okay, that's good to know. Great. We finally have Nana Kojo joining us. A few questions came. Is this Nana Kojo when Nana Obiri was speaking? Like Nana Kojo is joining shortly, because I think hearing that we finally have someone from Lands Commission joining us and speaking to us is such an honor. Nana, thank you so much for joining us. I'll ask you to really introduce yourself, and then we can take on from where we are.
Good afternoon and good morning, everybody, depending on where you are joining us from. My name is Nana Kojo Sophie. I am the district head, Lands Commission, specifically Land Registration Division in Tema.
Great. Thank you so much again for joining us. I know quite a number of questions will be directed your way, but I have the first question, Nana. What are the common pitfalls you find ourselves falling into all the time when we are trying to acquire property in Ghana? Because I think the buck stops at you. You're the one, we come with our sale agreement, excited that we have this property, and you look at us and you shake your head and like, your file, this is not happening. Please talk to your lawyer. Just tell us, what are the common mistakes that we often do when we are purchasing property and land in Ghana?
Well, first and foremost, we don't start right. Usually that is the biggest challenge we have. Most prospective buyers or prospective landowners don't start right. They don't conduct any searches. They don't go through the appropriate processes. So it makes it quite difficult when challenges arise along the line. And usually that is what causes all the delays and the frustrations that people go through. Mm-hmm. So if we start right by making sure that first and foremost, purchasing any property is a huge capital commitment. So you don't want to go into it casually. So you would want to always seek the service of a professional and make sure that even if you are going through yourself, make sure that you are going through the appropriate steps. But I would always advise that you seek the service of a professional to advise you on before you even commit any monies into what you want to acquire.
Okay. And what is really the role of Land Commission? Probably, I know it's obvious, it could sound obvious. This is what we do. We register property and keep the file and make sure that the proper legal documentation of each parcel is well secured. But just take us, what's your role as Land Commission?
Well, Land Commission generally is a body set up by law, by the Constitution, to manage and also register deeds, instruments, titles on land, and also provide other services. So Lands Commission is made up of 4 main divisions. The Public and Vested Lands Management Division, which basically deals with lands that have been acquired by the state. And then vested lands, lands that have also been vested in the state, basically to manage, advise the government on these, and where portions of these lands have been given out to citizens or non-citizens or businesses for various purposes to manage those estates. We also have the Land Registration Division, which is primarily responsible for registering deeds or instruments and titles in land, and also providing other related services, like providing an opportunity for people to conduct searches in the registers of Lands Commission. Also, make inquiries into the ownership or otherwise of lands that have been registered and so on. There is the Land Valuation Division, primarily responsible for the assessment of the stamp duty. That is a tax that is paid prior to registration, because the law is that no instrument can be registered, either be deeds or title, without the payment of that specific tax. So it's a tax. They also are responsible for the assessment of compensation, where the government compulsorily acquires land from people, either stools, families, as the case may be, or skins. And then compensation is paid. They also provide services to government and private institutions when they want valuation services, want to know the open market value of properties. Also, they do assess the rates, property rates for the district assemblies and other services that they provide. The Survey and Mapping Division also provides services of survey and mapping, as the name suggests. So by law, the director of survey licenses practitioners, people who have gone through a certain process and become licensed surveyors. Surveyors who have sat for some exams and attended some interviews and issued with some license regulates them. So they usually provide those survey services, and the director of survey regulates that practice, as well as prepare survey, issue technical instructions for the practice of survey in the country, provide survey services across the country in general. So these are some of the things that Lands Commission provides. But for our services, for our purposes, the services that Lands Commission or we are interested in is the registration of deeds and titles in land, I believe.
Okay. Now, what do I need to bring to you? I've purchased a property. I have my sale agreement. I have probably the transfer documents, and I have the title. Is that enough, or you now want me to get, what more do you want from me? Because as we were talking with Benedicta earlier, there's an issue where, yes, this is land truly being sold. Someone has the document who is an uncle, but he's not the rightful representative of the family. And he sold me the land. So rightfully, I have the documents, but it cannot be transferred to me because in as much as I paid, I didn't pay the right family member. So what more do you want from me for you to register that property to me? So that as our audience purchases, they know that beyond me having these documents, there's something more that I need to have so that it can give me a seamless process when registering this piece. Or when getting this property
all
transfer.
all that you mentioned earlier has got to do with what you need to do before even you get the appropriate documents. So if you're going to start from that, the first thing is engaging the service of a surveyor to prepare a plan. Somebody comes to you or you approach somebody, you want a parcel of land to purchase or a piece of property to purchase. You want to do your inquiries to make sure that you're dealing with the appropriate person. Your inquiries doesn't end with the Lands Commission by obtaining a copy of the site plan and conducting your search. So I always advise that beyond conducting your search and knowing that, well, this is the appropriate family that you need to deal with, you also need to approach that family and do your own investigations to find out whether the person who is representing himself or herself as the head of the family or the occupant of the stool is the appropriate person to deal with. Because Lands Commission may not have that information for you, may not. In some situations we do. So you would have to do that. If you engage the services of a professional, they would be able to, either a lawyer or a chartered surveyor, either a member of the VES of the Ghana Institution of Surveyors or a land surveyor, they could go into those issues to be able to find out who the appropriate person to deal with is. And then also you make general inquiries in the neighborhood to find out who the appropriate person is to deal with. So after you've made those inquiries and you are satisfied that you are dealing with the right person, then you can go ahead and negotiate for the property you want to purchase. Then you have a lawyer engross the appropriate instrument for you. Then you submit that to the Lands Commission to begin the processes. Now, in a lawyer engrossing your document, as I mentioned earlier, it's important to deal with professionals because we have situations where you obtain documents from the family and it's submitted to our offices and we realize that it was not properly done, because you will need to establish your root of title. And that is something that we always have a back and forth with people on. They come and say, oh, but I bought the land from the person. And we say, yes, the person owns the land, but there are some documents that you ought to have obtained from the person after you had negotiated with the person, in addition to whatever instrument that instrument or document that you've been provided with. So it's important to use I can't emphasize that enough, because they would be able to make sure that the appropriate instruments are collected or copies of them collected to aid in your registration. Beyond that, you would have to identify yourself a national ID, either if you're a non-citizen, the non-citizen Ghana card, or a copy of your biodata page of your passport. If you're a citizen, then your Ghana card, any ID that proves your citizenship, because that is important. I think I had Benedicta address the issue of non-citizens and the interest that they may acquire. We are faced with that many times. When you explain it to somebody an applicant, they find it difficult to believe. What we need to understand is that citizenship is conferred by law. Okay, there are some jurisdictions to be able to attain citizenship, either through naturalization or you have to be born in a place. In Ghana, simply being born in Ghana doesn't make you a citizen. Or having a Ghanaian name is not a citizen. Doesn't make you a citizen. Also, you can lose your citizenship. We know there are so many Ghanaians that find themselves outside of the country and acquire the citizenship of another country. Good enough, our laws allows for dual citizenship. So once you want to attain your citizenship back, you just have to go through the necessary process to be able to show that you are a citizen of Ghana as well. So simply having a Ghanaian name or being born in Ghana or having a birth certificate showing that you were born in Ghana doesn't make you a citizen.
Yes, that's
so
quite so interesting, Nana. Thank you so much. That's great insight, and I think we cannot assume that our audience today, our guests today, they know that. So thank you for bringing that out and really highlighting it very, very well. And I like the fact that you've really taken us from the beginning. One is the surveyor, and then get the rightful rep, and then inquire from the village. And then, of course, it's good to get legal representation so that you can get someone to come through the whole system and ensure that you're really purchasing the property the right way. Benedicta, I just want to come back to you, and we are a developer. So Indigohomes is a developer, and I know we take time to do our due diligence. Sometimes it can even take as long as 1 year because of the kind of the parcels that we buy. We buy 15 acres to develop 200 homes in a gated community, just to make sure that there is that opulence and fine living that we provide our buyers. And I have experienced quite a bit of what we go through to ensure that our land is clean, we have all the documentation in place, and there is never going to come a time when someone can come and say we took their land or we did not buy the land from the rightful owner. It's such a vigorous process. And sometimes we've had to walk away from great pieces of land simply because we cannot get the right documentation and we operate above board as a company. But we've had situations in the industry where a developer develops midway and suddenly they have to stop because there's a land issue. And here comes buyers who have bought off plan. Some have paid in full, others have paid halfway, or others have put in their deposit. Or even people who have finished developing and the developer has moved out of sight, and then suddenly there's a land issue that comes up. And you can imagine you're maybe 40, 50 units in one parcel of land, and you've only bought one house, just a 2-bed, 3-bed, and it's such a small fraction of the piece of land in question, and suddenly you're caught up in this mess. What advice would you give to people who are actually buying from developers? Because you imagine that simply because someone is constructing, then that land is clean. And unless you go through a bank to take a mortgage, and the bank normally have their very vigorous due diligence process, and they can unearth such things. Otherwise, if you're buying cash, you might not be able to go, or you might assume you don't need to go through all this to ensure that the land is clean. What advice do you have for people who are buying property through developers? What do they need to see? And if they are caught up in such a situation where either the developer is midway and suddenly there's an issue of land, or where they've been handed over the community and suddenly there's an issue of land, what advice do you have for them, and how can they ensure that they don't lose their money altogether? Sorry, please unmute.
Okay, so if construction has gone on midway and then there's an issue of litigation, that has to be determined by the courts before completion, or maybe before complete transfer of the property. So assuming you started building and then midway there's litigation, depending on the reliefs that the person is seeking before the courts, then you would have to wait for a final determination, because the purchaser one of the reliefs may be for injunction to restrain you people from further continuing dealing with the land. So till that is determined at the end of the suit, you cannot do anything about it. The purchaser can also recover, if the purchaser is no more interested in purchasing the land anymore because of the litigation, he can also apply to the court for recovery of the money that he has paid in respect of the property. If another issue too is that if the property has been put up, but there's an issue of litigation, you can ask for preservation of the property. The property should be kept till everything is dealt with before you can finalize the transfer or ownership. Once the litigation takes place in transfer of ownership, and is seeking for declaration of title, when there's a relief for injunction as well. Have I fairly answered the question?
Yes, you have. Yes, you have. And you told us that the case could take as long.
It could,
So
not always. It could.
Okay.
It could.
And more the reason why I say, please just come to Indigohomes. You're sure we have done all this for you. Just come to Indigohomes. Let's get you the property of your choice, and some of these misgivings and headaches, you don't have to go through them. If you have a question, please go to the chat section and type it there so that we can take them as we move along. But just one thing I want to ask, Nana, what is land registration digitalized?
We are in the process of doing that now. Some services are fully online now, but we are in the process, and majority of our processes are being digitalized now. And I'm pretty sure that very soon we'll have the full-blown service fully digitalized. So currently we are just running a kind of a parallel system for now. But I mean, very soon, in a really short time, we should have all our processes digitally.
And I'll come back to Nana Obiri Yeboah shortly to just ask him whether he got to a point where Nana, hi. Just to come back to you, having had conversations with Nana from Lands Commission and Benedict, our legal advisor for the day. Did you get to a point where you got to the Lands Commission with the first property we spoke about, which had some challenges? Did you get to that point before you realized there was an issue, or it was before that?
Yeah, there are. So if I understand you correctly, I think the process wasn't bad in, I think, the sale. However, the challenge, I'll probably have to reach back out to Nana on the back door, because there's this property I picked up in Tema, and it's been quite a while. I can't get everything to transfer. And they said all the paperwork I've submitted is correct. The rightful owner sold it to me. He used to be a professor. So he sold me this property that I try to remodel. I think I'm almost done with that one, but then I just can't finish the process, and I don't know what is holding that up. But if we to dive into that, it might take everybody off track. So that would be something that I would try to reach out to him, if that's okay with him.
Yeah. Okay.
And what was your question again? I think I missed it.
No, I just wanted to ask that when you had challenges, there's one experience you had where 100K was on the line, and I just wanted you to share. Did you get to a point where you had to get to the Lands Commission with your paperwork and you're told, sorry, you need to step back a bit and check where you might have gone wrong, or you discovered there was an issue before you got there?
I discovered there was an issue before I got to that process, and I involved the legal team, which, like Benedict mentioned, they can't tell you when this will be finished or when this will come to an end. So, but then, because it could be back and forth many times. So I tried the Ghana police, and it was an interesting one. I got some of my money, but it was best that I just walked away from the rest. I lost a good chunk, but it's just the process of these headache. And when you sit back, sometimes depends on the job you do. Is it worth risking your time trying to figure this out, or you just cut your losses and run away?
Okay.
So yeah, but I lost a good chunk.
Sorry about that. I'm really sorry about that.
But I learned the hard way. So it's good that you have such meetings. People get to listen to other people's experiences, because people might think maybe a lawyer is going to ask a few thousand cedis or a few, like, it might be expensive. People are like, oh, that could go towards your foundation. That legal money could go towards this. But from my experience, if there should be a problem, you realize how important these legal people are. So even if you're buying a kiosk in Ghana, I recommend get a legal person involved. Any purchase you would like to do going forward, or if you've started a process that you think this person is so legit, it doesn't matter. Please get a legal person involved. That's what they do. That's their specialty. And not just any legal person. Get a vetted legal team that they know what they do, and you would never regret it. So such meetings really help us all. Great. And I'm not sure if head or director of lands, if it's okay for me to try and take a number on there after the meeting and reach out to you.
Sure, definitely.
Oh, great.
All right. Thank you very much.
That's good news. Right. Thank you for that.
But there are a lot of questions in the group chat too, Anna. I don't know if you can.
I don't seem to find the chat. Probably.
Okay, so if you touch on, are you on a desktop or an iPad?
I'm actually touching on the chat, and all I can
you see the Q&A. If you touch the screen, it should populate a little drop down for you to see Q&As.
Interesting that from my end I can only see the panelists chat. Maybe Richard, you can.
No, if you just touch your screen, you should be able to see the mute video, how many participants are in the video, if somebody wants to chat and all that, by just touching your screen.
I know, I should, but I think
once you touch your screen, it should come from the bottom. It should pop up from the bottom.
I can see the number of participants. Right. I can see. Maybe Richard, you read the questions for us.
So when it gets to that time, just let me know. We have quite a number. I'll just start from
you have about 10 now.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. From my end, I can't see the questions. I'm not sure.
That's okay. I think some of the questions are very relevant to what other panelists are talking about. So maybe if you want to take a few break sessions while you discussing it,
Okay,
and,
great.
and address them.
Yeah, great. Maybe
Interesting.
that you can go through the questions that we have.
Okay, so Yao Ekwamwa wants to know, how does one determine if the person that he has signed on behalf of the family is the rightful owner? And he also wants to know, how true is it that someone at the land searches and cannot tell who actually owns the land, and that it is only, they cannot actually confirm that it's a state land and there's no transaction on the land and is not affected by any proposed government acquisition. The question is, Yao, if you could look at the second question and then put it properly together so we understand what you're saying. But he primarily wants to know, how can one determine that the person who has signed off a document on behalf of a family is the rightful owner?
Okay, so maybe I can ask, Benedicta, do you want to take that? Because it sounds more of a legal issue where someone needs to know exactly, is this the right person I should be dealing with?
As my learned colleague from Lands Commission indicated, you have to conduct further searches. I remember he did mention that you even have to go to the family, make sure that you're dealing with the right person, visit even the site, talk to your neighbors to find out if indeed you are dealing with the right person. That is very, very key. Yes.
Mm-hmm. And
so
Richard,
that is part of the due diligence that you have to do.
Okay. And Richard, you talked of something about this tool.
Yes, so he sought to say that sometimes the Lands Commission does searches on lands and they are not able to tell who actually owns the land. And that he said that they can only confirm for you that the land is not a state land. So they cannot tell whether it belongs to Kwame or Kweku, but they can tell you if it belongs to the state or not, and that there is no transaction on the land. And it's not affected by any proposed government acquisition. So he's literally saying the Lands Commission is a hearsay, that it can sometimes not confirm who actually owns a piece of land, but they can only tell you that it doesn't belong to the state or it belongs to the state.
Oh, Nana, is that possible?
Yes,
Nana,
that is the case.
Yes.
That is exactly the case. Lands Commission only records information on transactions that is submitted to it. That's why it's important that once you are through with a transaction, you submit it for the registration to be done. So Lands Commission can only report on what it has in its record. And if it has nothing, then it will only report nothing.
That's interesting. Okay.
Yes,
so
Lands Commission does not have, or is not a repository of the information on all ownership of land in Ghana. So that is why I mentioned that beyond your searches, you need to do further inquiries. Don't just take that on face value. You need to go and do your due diligence as well. And I think that also applies to many other registries across the world, because the registry only is a place where you submit what you have done or the transactions that have been completed for recording. So if you don't submit that, if we don't have the information, then we can't record that information. So it's very important that we know this.
Interesting, because I would imagine that all land is mapped. So that's interesting to know. Thank you so much for that insight, because then that means there's so much, there's land which actually, so when you say that, then if I go to the surveyor, the plan, is that land mapped?
Yes, the surveyor would prepare for you a site plan, which you would use to conduct your searches. If you have information that the property you are interested in purchasing has already been registered, you can get the registration details, which could also aid in confirming or getting some information there. However, if the site plan you present, there is no transaction on that particular piece of land, then Lands Commission would not be able to give you any information. It would only tell you they don't have any information for you, in their records. So that is that.
Okay, thank you for that. Richard, please, let's go to the next question.
So the second question comes from an anonymous attendee. He says that who are the right professionals to assist in land or property purchase? And how do you vet these professionals to make sure that they are the right ones?
Benedicta, how do we vet you? Please unmute. Yeah.
My colleague Nana mentioned that you should get licensed surveyors. You should also get lawyers. That is very, very key, just as Nana Kojo said. And go onto the site. You see, even the Lands Act provides that all land transactions should be executed by lawyers, should be drafted by lawyers. It's provided in there. So engage the services of a lawyer, as Nana Kojo said, even if it is just for a kiosk or whatever, engage the services of a lawyer. Have a surveyor as well who draft the site plan for you, assist you with that so that you can conduct further searches with it, as my colleague Nana said. So those are some of the professionals you should engage. Maybe Nana being at Lands Commission can give us more.
I think you can, I mean, that those are not the only professionals. You can engage the services of a valuation and estate surveyor. How you are able to vet professionals is the lawyers have a database. You can always look up a lawyer, whether the lawyer is actually licensed to practice. Same with licensed surveyors. You can always check. They have an association called the Licensed Surveyors Association of Ghana, LISAG. You can always call on them to verify whether whoever it is you are dealing with is who he says he is. Same with the valuation and estate surveyor, whom you can call on the Ghana Institution of Surveyors, GHIS, to verify that you are dealing with the appropriate people. So with the professionals, you can always find out who they are, what kind of body they belong to. It's important because it would help you avoid dealing with quacks, because we are very well aware that there are some quacks in the system and there are people holding themselves out to be lawyers who are not. So it's always important to verify that you are dealing with the right person.
Okay, thank you for that. I think that's quite insightful. Over to the next question, Richard.
So Fred Asumeni Atinka wants to know, he wants us to provide information on the land at Oyarifa Park. For example, if someone is transferring deed of the property to the child, he wants some information on that.
Okay. Can I pass it on to Nana Kojo? Now we have the land, we have our land and our title, but someone wants to transfer. I think it's pretty direct, but maybe you can take them through it.
Well, yes, I think it's pretty direct. I think Indigohomes has registered its title, so that shouldn't be difficult. But I think that his question may be more to, is it possible to transfer to a child? I'm thinking that is what he wants to. Yes, it's possible. The only catch is that you, the parent, or the parents would have to hold it in trust for the child if the child is a minor. But if the child is of age, now the age at which you can hold property, according to our laws, is now 18. The law was a bit silent on that, so we used to go with the age at which you can contract, which was 21. But now, if you are 18, you can hold property according to our law. So if you are 18, then you can hold property in your own name. However, if you are less than 18, then your parents would have to hold it in trust or as trustees for such a minor child or children.
Okay, so now I think when they buy property, we give them the sublease and we give them the site plans. So when he wants to transfer this property to the child, what other document does he need to have?
If the property is already been, or the sublease is already in the name of the parents, they would have to get a lawyer to engross another document, a deed of assignment, which would have them holding the property as trustees for the children, so that when they are of age, then it would automatically transfer to them. Yes.
Okay. Great.
But
Great.
if the children are already of age,
They can choose.
I mean, they would have to hold it in their own name. They'll be able to hold it in their own name. So a lawyer would engross a deed of assignment, having gone through what we have already discussed, make sure that all the necessary documents are available, your root of title is properly established, done all your searches and your requisitioned all necessary documents, then they can go ahead and engross a deed of assignment in the name of the child.
Great. Yeah, so it's pretty direct with Indigohomes, again, because we've done all our due diligence, we've registered the land, no issues. So it's very easy for you to do a transfer so long as you have property with us. Richard, please go to the next question.
So the next person, Atta Ejay Prince, he'd like to know, how does the implied terms established in the Land Act, how can it be made known to anyone that is acquiring a land, anyone that has an interest in the land? How can the person know the implied terms that is established in the Land Act?
Benedicta, maybe you want to take that?
The implied terms, basically, even if it's not in the contract, it's implied that there are certain things that can be done or cannot be done. Nana, I think this one, you have to help me out on this one, because is it that you should have knowledge of the Lands Act? I think so. Or...
See a lawyer. That is my answer.
Of course.
Just see a lawyer. I mean, they are implied terms, and so whether or not they are expressed in a document, they are implied into the document. So it doesn't have to be there black and white. However, I think the question is asking so people would know. You have to be interested in that to read, I mean, the act for yourself. Lands Commission has also been at the forefront, engaging in media discussions, discussing the Land Act since 2021. So we've been at various fora, not only discussing the act, but also discussing our services and how people can engage with us and not fall prey to crooks or middlemen who would swindle them and take their money. So if you want to know, maybe engage a lawyer or get the act, read for yourself, or you can walk to our offices also. There are available resources for you, resource persons for you to engage, and they can give you some information regarding these things.
I think the underlying statement, engage a lawyer. Just play it safe, save yourself the headache, save yourself the chances to make mistakes, just engage a lawyer. I think that's a good one. Richard, the next question.
So Bawa wants to know, he wants us to give him an outline for land acquisition in Ghana. So if someone is intending to do so, he would want to Nana from Lands Commission, I think this is directed at you. He wants you to give you an outline for acquiring land in Ghana.
All right. Simply, first, when you identify the land you want to acquire, engage the services of a licensed surveyor for him or her to prepare you a site plan. You come to Lands Commission. Well, now you don't even need to come to Lands Commission to conduct a search. You can do that online from the comfort of your homes. You go through the necessary process. You go online, you look for online services .lc.gov, and then you go through. You would have to create an account, and then you can upload the site plan and request for a search, pay for the service, and then you would receive the report, the information that you are looking for. Now, after you get that information, you would have to make sense of that information. If you're able to make sense of it, that's fine. But if not, you have to seek the service of a professional. So from an early stage, even I would always advise that sometimes once you identify the land you want to acquire, engage the service of a professional right from the beginning. If you engage the service of a lawyer, the lawyer would engage the licensed surveyor on your behalf and commence with the search processes and so on and so forth. But if you happen to do that yourself, after you get that information, you engage the service of a lawyer who would be able to interpret that information. If it turns out that an information favors whoever or whomever you are acquiring the property from, then the lawyer would engage the family, the stool, or the individual, maybe a company, maybe a real estate company, engage them on your behalf and request for the necessary documents showing their ownership or their title to the land. And where it's a stool or a family and perhaps they have not yet registered their land, the lawyers would definitely determine based on discussions with them whether they are the rightful owners. The lawyer or the professional would also do some other due diligence to be able to determine that they are the appropriate people to deal with. Okay. After that, you definitely would have to negotiate for the sale or purchase of the property. Once that is through, an instrument, an appropriate instrument, depending on whatever case it is, will be engrossed for you by the lawyer, or the lawyer would ensure that the seller or the vendor would engross an appropriate instrument for you. The lawyer would also ensure that whatever additional documents you need for the successful transfer of the property will be also engrossed for you. And then once you have all the necessary documents, then you are ready to commence the registration or transfer of the property into your name. So it's always important to make sure that the initial steps you take, you do that properly, even before you obtain the document for registration, so that by the time you get to Lands Commission, all your documents are set. Yes.
Okay, great. Good to hear that. Richard, in the interest of time, I know we are very keen. We always say that we are going to take exactly 45 minutes to an hour. We are 1 hour, 15 minutes, 19 minutes actually, over time into the session. So maybe you can combine 2 or 3 questions together. And then how many more questions do we have unanswered?
I think we're done answering all of them, the ones that are in the Q&A box.
Oh, great. Awesome. Thank you so much for that. So I think the takeaways in this is, number 1, starting right. You start right, get a surveyor, get the right professionals in place to assist you through the process. And then, of course, make sure the documentation is in place. Even as your lawyer does the searches, go to the village and talk to a few people to really understand who this land belongs to. And I think there's a lot of groundwork to be done. And Nana, just to close, do you have any support for people in diaspora? Maybe someone lives in the US, Canada, Australia, London. They're out in the UK. They're out there, but they would want to buy property back home. And sometimes they may not have the relatives here, or they just have a lawyer who they've sought online to support them through the purchase process. Do you have any support for people in diaspora?
Well, not yet, but it's definitely food for thought. I think I have in different forms had this question as to how Lands Commission can engage people who are not in the country, who want to engage with it directly. It's some food for thought. I'll bring it up to my bosses and definitely will think through it.
Yeah. Now that we're encouraging the people in diaspora to invest back home and buy property and
yes,
build back, build our economy, bring a bit of forex into the country. Probably it's something to juggle your mind a bit and see how best can we support them to make sure that they're buying property and they're not losing money like you had from Nana. He lost almost $100,000, which is a lot of money. Probably we can juggle our minds, and even as we go digital, probably it's something we can have as a new improvement in the land.
Yes, definitely.
Yes.